What does the term performance-enhancing drugs mean? These drugs are substances that are commonly used by athletes to improve any form of activity performance. Typically, when referred to, most are talking about when a professional athlete uses steroids. But there are many different types. When an athlete uses a performance-enhancing drug, they are trying to improve their game. Some may want to quickly increase their endurance. For a bodybuilder, they use drugs to increase their muscular size and strength in addition to their exercising. Some even use them for weight loss. These drugs include growth hormones such as testosterone and many other steroids. When using stimulants such as adrenaline or cocaine, the athlete is trying to increase alertness and competitiveness, which also reduces their tiredness. When using narcotic drugs like morphine or oxycodone, they're trying to higher their pain threshold, which will ultimately make them feel more invincible. Now that we have taken something to enhance themselves, the athletes want to keep from getting caught. So they will use diuretics and other masking agents, single or in a combination, to keep from getting caught. Not all athletes are using illegal drugs, though. Many try to go about it with other home remedies instead. The use of things such as caffeine, energy bars, creatine, or liquid meals are considered performance-enhancing substances. But because they are also considered food supplement, any and all athletes are open to use them. So now that we know what a performance-enhancing drug is and the many reasons one would use them, let us look at some of the reasons people want them to be legal. When it comes down to it, those in favor of legalizing performance-enhancing drugs have three main arguments. 1. Sports will be more entertaining to watch. In an issue of Forbes magazine, Chris Smith wrote, "A huge part of watching sports is witnessing the very peak of human athletic ability. And legalizing performance-enhancing drugs would help athletes climb even higher." When watching sports, what are you looking for? Excitement, the fittest, the best performers. The audience doesn't settle for anything less. They want a production that thrills them, and what better way than to let the ones doing the performing to enhance themselves in every way they can. Bigger muscles, faster speed, greater strength and agility. Some of the drugs allow athletes to do these things as well as to recover quickly so they are able to get back on the stage or in the field. Some argue that if we are against athletes using enhancers, that we should also put harsher restrictions on actors and their use of plastic surgery, or keep pregnant women from using painkillers during birth. Because we won't do these things, they want us to agree to let athletes to use substances to help them in their professions. This brings us to argument number 2. For strictly business purposes, they should be legal. If the athletes are doing more impressive things, more people will want to watch, which will prompt them to buy more tickets, which would in turn create more money in the industry. Thirdly, they often say athletes are going to be taking performance-enhancing drugs, like it or not. We're never going to be able to make them stop. So if we go ahead and legalize it, we can then quit benching the good players, and we can make them safer because the athletes won't have to get them off the streets. Now allow me to explain why the use of performance-enhancing drugs in professional sports should remain prohibited. First of all, we have to take into consideration the health risks. According to sportsmedicine.com, the results of taking performance-enhancing drugs for men include infertility, breast development, shrinking of the testes, and cysts, among other things. For women, the use of performance-enhancing drugs may result in a deeper voice, enlargement of the clitoris, and irregular hair growth, just to name a few. Alongside these, both men and women who take performance-enhancing drugs are prone to enlargement of the heart's left ventricle, tendon rupture, high blood pressure, heart attacks, and rage and aggression. Sammy Steen writes, if performance-enhancing drugs became permissible, then athletes who use them may also do damage long-term to their bodies. Who knows the long-term effects of some of the drugs? Even drugs regulated, there are still side effects. Plus, by our nature and our drive to do better than the other guy, people are inevitably going to have just one more attitude, and this addictive behavior can be destructive. This being said, athletes would still choose to take their performance-enhancing drugs knowing the effects they could potentially and would likely have on their health. But this takes us to a more important point. Professionals set a precedent for our future generation. The National Football League itself created its own steroid policy because they believe that steroids use threatens the fairness and integrity of athletic competition and sends the wrong message to young people who may be tempted to use them. If their heroes are taking performance-enhancing drugs, why shouldn't they? If we are accepting the use of these performance enhancers at a professional level, then why not go ahead and start at the collegiate level? After all, that is how you get to play pro ball. Then this can go further to kids asking, how do you get scouted for college? By standing out in high school. And how better to do that than to go ahead and start the performance enhancers in high school? If they're not allowed to do it at the professional level, then those at the high school level look at it as less of an option to enhance their game through drugs, but through hard work. For my third and last point, we go back to the idea that by using performance-enhancing drugs, it takes away from the integrity of the competition. Isn't a sport supposed to be fun? Aren't we supposed to play out of passion and love for the sport? When did this obsession with beating the opponent take over all the ideas these sports were founded on? Ansanko states, doping jeopardizes the moral and ethical basis of sport and the health of those involved in it. World Anti-Doping Agency, the WADA, was founded on the principle that integrity of sport is fundamental to the spirit of sport and that integrity is threatened by doping. I think that April Ashby, a law student at the Marquette University, hit it straight on the head when she wrote, sports are about competition on equal footing, with the respect for the opponent and respect for the rules of the game. I know I cannot base my argument against legalizing performance-enhancing drugs on a strictly moral argument, which is why I urge you to keep in mind the previous 3 points I made. For as much fun as it would be to see these enhanced athletes star in their profession, where is the integrity of the sport? It'll jeopardize the health of the players, and where will this take our children? We make choices for our future generation every day. It is up to us today to choose the direction we want our youth to go in. So stand with me and help keep performance-enhancing drugs illegal so that the children in sports will have a brighter future.